Hello?
It's me, Richard.
It's 1:30 in the morning. What are you doing calling me?
Sorry to do it to you, but we have a mother of a virus ripping through a major company file.
Okay, throw me some numbers. Okay, give me your password.
My password?
Out with it!
Oral cum shot.
Oral cum shot? Yeah, that fits.
So, if you watch me play with Input Overlay on, you might have noticed that my keybinds are actually cursed. I pretty much rebound all of my keys to suit my needs and the tech I want to be able to do, instead of wrestling with the controls. In my opinion, the less of a disconnect between you and the game, the more natural the controls feel and the better you will be able to play. And the easier it will be for you to express your own unique style. If you think of an idea, you should be able to at least approximately execute it and not even have to think about which buttons to press. I assume you've already noticed the length of this video, so I'm just gonna go straight into my nerd shit. I went on the ULTRAKILL Discord multiple times to ask as many speedrunners and high-level cybergrind players about their inputs and why they chose them. In this video I will analyze all of these responses to attempt to give you the optimal keybinds, weapon layouts and sensitivities, supported by facts and logic. Okay, obviously this video will be subjective as hell, but there are some core principles that will apply no matter your preferences, which you might want to keep in mind when customizing or choosing not to customize your settings. I'm just gonna say up front that there is not a single optimal layout, and because of this I will give you multiple options and let you choose for yourself. Wait. Before you click off the video, let me explain. You may be wondering why I have all these buttons set to my thumb. But if you think about it, your thumb can cover all buttons from Y to N and possibly even M for some people, without even having to move your hand. This is because your thumb covers this horizontal space just by flexing and extending. If you curl up your thumb, you can easily press X for instance, without moving your hand. Try putting your hand on WASD and then pressing 5, and then try to press X with your thumb. You'll see how much more your hand has to move in the former example. Moving on, my main criteria for choosing my settings is no overlap between buttons, in the sense that I don't want to have the same finger responsible for handling 2 or more buttons required for certain tech. For example, let's say that I wanted to put my shotgun on E, because it's more comfortable than reaching for 2. This means I can shotgun swap while moving forward more easily, as I'm not using my middle finger to hit 2. But as soon as I start trying to shotgun swap and projectile boost, only my ring finger is still on WASD, because punch is on F by default, so my movement greatly suffers. This is true unless you use your thumb to hit F, in which case you can't jump without rebinding jump. So, with the defaults, you have the choice of being unable to go anywhere but left and jumping, or being unable to go left or right without jumping. The way I solved this problem was to put my shotgun on Q and punch on V. So, you may be wondering, how does this fix anything? I still gotta move at least one finger to swap, right? Well, I prefer to use my middle finger for movement, because one finger controls two buttons, which lets me go in more directions than with just A and D. The biggest weakness of shotgun on Q is not being able to go left while swapping, but it is compensated for by letting you dodge to the side, diagonally, and move in closer or back away depending on the enemy. Another keybind to keep in mind is change variation, but that is a surprise tool that will help us later. Now, if you've been paying attention, I guess most of you are throwing tomatoes at the screen when you heard that I changed my punch keybind to V. This may be different for you, but for me, my thumb rests on spacebar in such a way that V always lines up with the tip of my finger. But you may be asking, doesn't this mess with your jump inputs? And the answer would be no, actually. Because I can press only V, only spacebar, or both, just by pressing with the tip of my finger, my knuckle, or laying my thumb down fully. If this feels awkward at first, it isn't that bad when you practice it a bit. Now let's look at the shotgun pro boost scenario again. I can't easily go to the left, but I can go in 5 different directions and jump while I'm at it. This opens up more freedom of movement, which will let you focus on surviving while dealing effective damage, or simply lets you express yourself with your movement more. The focus of this segment was my reasoning for my punch keybind, but I had to cover the shotgun too, as it's most commonly used with the punch. So, what's the next keybind I'm gonna curse? Since we're talking movement, let's discuss sliding. I put slide on my mouse thumb button. Why? Because I have terminal Titanfall brain rot and I used to have it bound to that in that game. The second reason is it makes executing certain tech way easier. For instance, dash storage is performed by sliding during your dash, and as of the most recent update it gives you 1 full second of invincibility. With my setup, I can easily initiate a dash in any direction with shift and follow up by sliding with my mouse. This may feel foreign at first, but trust me. Other benefits of sliding using your mouse is that your pinky doesn't have to work as hard, or you don't have to angle your hand to make it easier to press both sequentially. Other tech that benefits from this are dash extensions, and to a lesser extent slam storage. Slam storage is easy enough to perform normally, but I prefer having my pinky on dash, so I can position myself better and faster. This may not come into play during exploratory sections or speedruns, as you already know everything that's going to happen, but in cybergrind or challenge runs, or simply playing through the campaign, having precise control over your mobility is a great advantage. Diving is easier to perform in this layout too, in my opinion, but I stress that this point is my own personal preference and it might not be completely true for you. To perform a dive, you need to hit dash and slam at the same time almost perfectly. My whiplash is bound to my second thumb button. I've heard a lot of people swear by using the mouse wheel to whiplash, which I will get to later in the video, but I find clicking the mouse wheel uncomfortable, let alone holding it when necessary. A second effect of this is that you either have to move one of the fingers you use to press the left and right mouse buttons, or you have to use your ring finger on the right mouse button, which is the actually cursed thing here and not my layout. This is why I put the whiplash on my thumb mouse button. And, of course, also a lot of Titanfall. This binding helps a lot when you need to rocket lash, as you click with your index and then your thumb, sort of like a pinching motion, which is fairly easy. Another benefit is that you use the mouse to aim, and shooting a projectile with the mouse feels really natural to me. Either way, you don't use the whiplash too often after the nerf, so it won't mess with your attack rhythm as much as if you could punch on the same key in my opinion. Next, the arm swap button, which I bound to control after moving slide to the mouse. I'd like to thank Nova for providing some more hand cam footage. For the next 2 clips I'd like for you to pay attention to arm swaps. Compared to the slide, arm swap is used less often and with more purpose, so it feels comfortable. And you also never need to time it, as most use cases are reacting to an enemy or swapping to the arm you need in advance. But I'm gonna say that this still isn't good enough. I recommend using the FastPunch mod, previously known as QUICKFIST. This mod will make your arm swap button a dedicated button for the knuckle blaster. If you're not using the mod, swapping arms involves one of the following processes. 1. You choose the arm you'll use before an encounter. 2. You have to remember which arm you used last if you keep swapping, so as to not KB a parry or a pro boost, or feedback or an enemy you wanted to KB. 3. Check the bottom right of the screen when you actually want to be focusing on what's ahead of you. 4. Have a main arm and swap, punch and swap every time. Or alternatively, just press one button. I have no idea why this isn't in the game as an option. Hakita did confirm that an option will be added if the last arm is its own button, like the whiplash, but I think we should have the option either way. To install this mod, follow this guide and put this mod in the UMM plugins folder. You'll install UMM while following the mod install guide I showed you. My last weapon key is bound to the scroll wheel, as I pretty much never used it. Holding this button is used for speedrunning, so you should put it somewhere where it feels comfortable to hold. Not much else to add here, really. The weapon wheel has since been nerfed, and now counts real time despite slowing the game down, making it way less prevalent in speedruns. Last of the non-weapon binds is the variant swap button, which is bound to B. I never used this button at all, until Syncaj told me how he uses it. You can use the variant swap as a secondary button to get your preferred weapon faster. For instance, pressing QB on my layout to quick swap to your second shotgun instead of pressing QQ. Along with being noticeably faster, this can make swapping to your second weapon feel like one shared input, almost as if you're pressing a 2-button combo, instead of pressing a button twice. Although, this may just be my subjectivity again. Tying into this is the remember last used variant option. 9 out of 10 times, heck, 99 out of 100 times, this setting will just mess with your muscle memory. But there is a use case for this. For instance, when speedrunning 3-2, you want the malicious rail cannon on 1 to make doing ultra boosts faster, making your trip to the boss easier. But you also want the electric on 1 for the best chance at properly timing a slab rail coin on Gabriel. Having this option enabled allows you to have both setups ready for the right time. Next, my weapon binds. I already showed you that I put my shotgun on Q, so I'll just move on to the revolver, which is on E. This perfectly ties into my previous point of the variant swap button. By hitting EBE, you'll immediately draw the sharpshooter, or you can throw a coin and instantly swap to your sharpshooter with EB or BE. This is the case if you have marksman on your first slot, as you should. Double tapping buttons with your index finger will probably be faster than your ring finger, but once again, you can press EB to instantly go to your second slot if you want to be even more efficient. The nail gun is next, and I put it on F because it reminds me of the plasma rifle from Quake. Other reason is that you don't need to quick draw it too often, and you only swap to the overheat to perform overheat storage, so it doesn't interfere with your other inputs nearly as much as the shotgun or the revolver. My railgun is on C because it's easy for me to reach, and you can only use it once every 8 seconds, and you never need to punch at the same time. A more advantageous button might be R, because you could once again perform the variant swap trick to more efficiently swap your railguns. I don't do this because I'm too used to my current binds, but you could try with R, now that you have this knowledge. Alternatively, you could have the variant swap button on your mouse or on the number button. Finally, my rocket launcher is on X, because it's easy to reach and you mostly use it to initiate a rocket ride or get a quick burst of damage in your combo. The only awkward part is swapping to your second variant, because your thumb will be curled up in a weird position. And once again, this neatly ties into my next point, variant orders. Since rocket rides are more time sensitive than cannonballs, I have the freeze frame on the first slot. In my experience, you more often need to execute a rocket ride than you need to charge a cannonball 0.2 seconds faster, so it's a pretty simple choice. The revolver order should be marksman, piercer, sharpshooter in my opinion. Being able to instantly use coins is much more important than the raw damage of the piercer and sharpshooter. Quick coin use is necessary for coin adding and helps a lot for setting up very fast rail coins. I recommend having the piercer on the second slot, as it has a 4-second charge time, compared to the sharpshooter's 8 seconds if you're using the slab, and thus sees more use. If you're using the default sharps, feel free to swap around if it suits you. Default marksman and slab piercer are pretty much universally agreed upon, but the default versus the slab sharpshooter is a more nuanced argument. Basically, go with the default for sniping projectiles and crowds, and slab for damage, especially against bosses. Slab is a bit easier to use when coin adding, as it seems to have a more generous timing window and targets body parts differently. But this isn't a weapon guide, so I can't really go in depth here. This video is gonna be long enough as it is. Now, I'm just gonna have to rip the band-aid off here, because I'm gonna get roasted by all of the speedrunners. But I have to come out. I have the pump shot here on 1. Yes, I know. The optimal option is to have the core shotgun on 1, because you want to have the shortest startup time for core boosts, ultra boosts, nukes and chargeback nukes. I played with the pump on 1 since before the greed update, so it's really hard for me to switch. No matter your choice, you can still use QB to instantly pull it out. You probably didn't even notice I didn't have it on 1 in my gameplay because of how fast I swapped to it with the variant key. I'm gonna skip the nail gun for the moment and go straight to the railgun, just to get the roasts out of the way, okay? I have electric on 1 and malrail on 2.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
In my defense, I have too much muscle memory from all the coin tricks, and I abuse coins so much that malrail on 1 messes with like half of my game plan. The argument for malrail on 1 is easier and faster nukes, and more importantly for speedrunning, ultra boosts. This is going into speedrun territory, as the differences are measured in the fraction of a second, but they make a significant difference in speedruns, so depending on your aspirations or your current gameplay style, make the correct choice for you. The argument for electric on 1 is easier railcoin combos, and more importantly, slab railcoin combos. Slab railcoins rely on very specific timing. You can see my video on advanced coin mechanics. And also, adding an extra button to a very specific timing isn't good. Like I mentioned earlier, in levels where you need to ultra boost first and nuke for the majority of the level, and only slab railcoin for the boss, you can have the remember variant option enabled. This will let you use the malrail on 1 for the level and electric on 1 for the boss. And this particular use case was 3-2 speedrunning, as you can boost until you reach the boss arena and use dead coining and then slab railcoining to insta-kill the boss. Finally, we can get back to the nail gun. I recommend having a tractor on 1 and overheat on 2. This is because you usually start off by placing magnets before even firing the first shot. And secondly, you always want to shoot at least once from the attractor before swapping to the overheat to immediately have a full overheat charge available. As for saw gun versus nail gun, I like using the saw attractor and nail overheat. Saw is really good for crowd control and damaging hard to hit enemies, and the overheat is really good for raw damage and synergizes well with the saws by creating a damaging zone in the center. And the more important reason to me is that I just like the sound. Overheat saw is also a fine choice and works exceptionally well for no magnet traps, as the saw bounces perpendicular to the surface it hits, letting you mince an enemy if you can keep them in place. I seldom see the nail attractor though. It isn't bad by any metric, but it isn't outstanding either, meaning the saw gun outshines it in more situations. Now that I've hopefully convinced you that there is a method to my madness, let's see what the rest of the community uses. Default with a few changes. Was this whole video pointless? No. Keybinds and settings are entirely up to your preference in the end. There are people who... Heck, there are even people who won fighting game tournaments with steering wheels.
And the first thing on the turn! Initial T!
He lost his first there every time!
Oh my goodness!
With the steering wheel!
But there are also some general trends and reasons for rebinding keys that are mutual among multiple high-level players. The point of this video is to show you various layouts and to give you the information you need to adjust these layouts to your own needs. Now that I've laid out the keybinds and arsenal, it's time to go over the inputs for most of the tech in the game, in no particular order. Dear Lord. I'll assume that most of you play on default keybinds, or default with only a few keys changed, so I'll only be showing what it looks like to play on my setup. And default. Dash jumps. Dash and then jump. Same as default. Slide jumps. Slide and jump. This setup lets you easily press dash should you need to quickly cancel our momentum or dodge an attack. Dash extensions. Dash off a ledge and then slide. This setup doesn't require you to adjust your pinky at all to do, making it a bit more comfortable. Dash storage. Dash and then slide. You can easily slide as often as you want while still having your pinky ready on the shift key, letting you time your dash storage more easily. Ground slam. Press slide mid-air. While this may not come up for a lot of players, when you have to precisely slam on an enemy, for instance a Maurice or an idol, it helps to be able to go from a dash used to reposition into a slam as easily as possible. Slam storage. Cancel a slam by wall jumping. Rocket jumping. Having your rocket launcher on a key that you can reach without moving your hand will help you do this move nearly instantly. This can be used against Sisyphus, for instance. Rocket surfing. Once again, having the rocket launcher easily available could mean the difference between escaping on a rocket or exploding, or falling to your death. Rocket pull. Rocket and then whip. My reasoning for putting the whiplash on the mouse is it is basically a projectile weapon, and it just makes sense to me to have weapons on the mouse. This combo basically works by pressing both mouse buttons at almost the same time. Projectile boosting. Shoot, then punch, then swap your shotgun. Using my setup, you're going to be able to freely move in more directions, and also be able to keep your fingers closer to your other weapon buttons, should you need to change strategies. Core boost. Slide and then core. Okay, I will admit, this one tech feels a bit more awkward to me than default, so make of that what you will. Ultra boosts. Dash, then core eject, then mail rail. This tech simply requires less movement on this setup. Also, if you decide to have mail rail on too, like me, you should still be able to execute this tech without issue. If your preference is electric on 1, the only time you're really gonna want mail rail on 1 is when speedrunning. Dives. To execute a dive, you need to press slide and jump at nearly the same time. To guarantee a dive, you can bind the jump and slide to the same button. You can see West Axel do this in his 5-4 speedrun. Smooth getaway. Launch a sentry, whiplash to it and then rail. I would say this combo is a little bit easier on my setup. Wow, this elevator ride sure is taking a while, huh? I'll take this moment to say thanks to everybody who supported me. I never even thought this channel would reach 100 subscribers, let alone over 2,000 now. But I will say, anybody who didn't watch my Ultra Dandy video is fucking dead to me. You hear? Rail coin punches. Throw 2 coins, swap to your rail, shoot, punch, swap back to your revolver and throw 2 more coins. Aerial rail coins. While in the air, throw a coin, whiplash, and while moving forward, throw another coin. Swap to your rail and shoot, and then follow up with anything. Coin punch slap coins. Throw a coin below you, punch it, swap to your piercer and alt fire the coin. In this next segment, I'm going to show you the layouts used by prolific speedrunners and other significant members of the community. On the side, I will explain in text what I think of them. I'm sorry, I can't record any more audio. I'm losing my fucking marbles over here. Another 30-minute video? It keeps happening. I thought this video was gonna be 5 minutes. Haze, perfect as always. Although, you could move your nail gun and a rail cannon to your thumb. Also, whiplash on alt. What the hell? Herb. Not a big fan of having revolver on 2 and rocket on 3, but he can use variant swap to swap around his revolver when he's rail coining. Next up is Sincash. Nothing wrong with this layout, I just don't like the whiplash on mouse 3. Also, his variant swap is on alt, and he might have an easier time swapping with B since it's free. Lan, dash on E, see me after class. Okay, jokes aside, this layout is okay for speedrunning, but you might have some trouble dodging around during normal play or cybergrind. West Axle, only the weapon wheel and the arm swap have been swapped. Mostly default. Guess my video was pointless after all. Huh. Sensitivities. They don't matter. Okay, I'll elaborate. As long as you can do at least a 180, but I prefer to be able to do a 360 with a single hand movement without lifting your mouse, you're good. As Haze puts it, and as you will see in the outro, most runners are using, and I quote, batshit insanely high sensitivity. Coins help you land hits so you can compensate for imprecise aim. Like I said, if you can do a 180 or a 360, you've got your bare minimum sensitivity, and anything higher than that is your own preference. Moving on, you might want to invest in a good gaming chair like me. And before I roll the wacky outro, I'd just like to show you how I recorded my hand cam. See you in the next one.
To je najveći jad. never gonna miss